Hey, it's your girl Go Queen with the Q Chat podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Before we get started, I want to give you some information on how you can grab some Q Chat merchandise. Go to www.goqueen.com and there you can purchase any Q Chat merchandise or any of my Go Love Yourself tees. So go ahead, take a look at the website and feel free to grab some merchandise today. There's something else I want to fill you guys in on. If you haven't heard, Anchor is the hottest and easiest way to make a podcast. It's the best price in the world, free. So go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And just remember, Anchor distributes your podcast to all streaming platforms. It's super simple. So go ahead and sit back and get ready to listen to the next episode of the Q Chat. But don't forget, go to www.goqueen.com and grab some merchandise. Thank you for tuning in and get ready to listen in. Go Queen! Hey. So we're recording a new episode of the Q Chat, and this one is going to be entitled Go Sparkle. And I have Miss Queen Myisha Procter. She is the Sequin Unicorn, and she hails from Brooklyn, New York. So I want to go ahead and give Myisha the floor. She is a beauty guru, a public speaker, and a business strategist. So I want her to go ahead and introduce herself, and we're going to have a nice conversation and just being unique and just being our special selves in this world today. So how are you doing today, Miss Myisha?
I am doing wonderful. I am filled with optimism, hope, and focus. And I hope that many other people who are tuning in are as well, or soon will be after this incredible experience together.
That is awesome. So I wanted to talk. So I know everyone that has listened to this show, they know that I'm big on empowerment and self-love. So right now I feel like we're in a very unique time space. So obviously 2020 has turned into something very different. Obviously none of us would have expected this year to turn out the way it has done so far. But one thing for me personally, I've tried to use a lot of this time for self-reflection. So last year, I'd already entered a different phase of my life, just trying to pursue my dreams, trying to start my business and just start my mission and purpose. So what I wanted to ask you, Miss Myisha, I know like you said that you're colorful, and I've looked at your profile, and it really, if anyone goes and looks at her profile, which she'll give her information before the episode is over, I doubt I would challenge anyone to look at her profile and not smile after they scroll through her pics because like you have this bright smile and just this ball of positivity. So I just wanted to start off with, despite everything that is going on, how do you remain optimistic? How do you remain to hold on to, your unique qualities, just being happy? Like, what do you do just to focus, I guess, is the best question.
Well, I really loved what you said about, kind of this year, right? And it maybe not going according to maybe our visions and plans. I know I was laughing the other day because I had this really cute planner. I don't know if anybody else loves a good planner. I found it. It was so me, colorful. It had all the little details. I like the little full calendar page with the note page. And, I finally found my perfect planner. And as we all know, we have not made much use of these planners. But here's what my planner has become. It's become a place for me to journal and document. And I see 2020, if we think about that, right, even from a vision standpoint, as we are our clearest right now to see and identify what we need, what we've been missing, what we desire, what we crave. I think in a lot of ways we could be overcome with COVID and being cooped up or life slowing down, but we can have that 2020 vision to say, here's a chance for me to maybe try something new, like investing more in an incredible podcast, or educating myself more, or just falling more in love with myself. So I think first and foremost, how I stay positive every day, but mainly in this year, is to keep a vision on self-evolution. And in a lot of ways, doing that is starting every day with with kind of affirmative, positive language. And I remember hearing this from Oprah by way of Joel Osteen, which, regardless of religious affiliation that you have, I think he's a great storyteller and
Yes.
motivator. But he said, you know, whatever comes after the words "I am," right, will come looking for you. And I think that is so powerful. And that is part of how I start every day. Because sometimes, you know, listen, I'm over 30, things be aching and quaking. And, you know, it's like you have a couple glasses of wine and you just don't bounce back the same.
Right.
And it's so easy for us to say, right, oh, I'm tired, or my back hurts, or I'm discouraged. And I always have that in my mind. Oh no, I don't want that come looking for me. So I really change it around to, I'm going to get up and stretch. I am going to stretch so I feel, you know, my back isn't hurting or much. Or I'm going to make some phone calls or sign some petitions instead of I'm hurt. You know, I'm oppressed. I'm discouraged. I am healthy. I am wise. I am strong. I am worthy of love. I think sometimes just waking up or going to bed saying, I am worthy, that worth will come to you. So that is really one of the key, I'd say, foundational behaviors that guides me. And that's what comes forward in my expression in my everyday life. And then that is just mirrored in my social media posts, that I am and what do I want to come looking for me.
I love that. And I've spoken about this a lot. I know, like, when the whole COVID situation first happened, I was riding the fence on as far as if I wanted to even discuss it really on the podcast, because I do like to, you know, just stick with the whole train of being positive. But it got to the point where it was like there's no way to not address it. And I mentioned social media because obviously social media is a huge machine. I mean, I use social media every single day. It's just a part of, you know, my business. It's a part of my influence. And I've also talked a lot about just being mindful also about how social we are on social media. I guess
Right.
I could say are, you know, what we absorb, you know, because energy is important. And I think this time period, if anything, has showed us a lot as far as what we take in. You know, this is a unique situation where we had a virus where we literally could not be around people. So in that same mind frame, I think with the social media, we also had to be mindful of what we could catch, you know, from what we're absorbing. So I know, like, I've tried to be very mindful of being positive, you know, and obviously now we're in a social situation where, as far as the social injustice, where we want to educate. So I think it's important what you said, just what we take in, because it's important, you know. So just the self affirmations and watching what we say and just using social media as a positive force too, you know, so that we need a break. Sometimes we need a mental break. We need a recourse so we can go to and be like, okay, so this is my happy place. This is my place where I can have some peace, where I can have some solitude, where I can get to a space where I'm not necessarily reminded of what's taking place, or I can just take a break, you know, and have some downtime. So, and I know that you're in New York right now, which I know, like, in New Orleans, that was one of the hot spots, you know, where I'm located. And New York obviously is a really busy area in general. What do you do to find your happy place as well? Because I know you mentioned some things that, you know, you do to have your peace, and you just seem so positive. So what are your takes on just, you know, keeping this positivity? Because unfortunately, we really don't know how long this is all going to last. This is 2020 has just really turned in. It's really manifested into something I think has taken a lot of us by surprise. So I think a lot of us are dealing with shock, probably some post-traumatic situations, because we're really trying to absorb what's going on. A lot of us was affected by the virus, you know, either directly or indirectly with our loved ones and our friends. So then, of course, with the social injustice, for me, I was just at a level of frustration and numbness when everything happened with George Floyd, because I've always been very adamant about things that have taken place in this world. So a lot of it, I was just like, I was really numb. You know, I really couldn't be shocked because unfortunately this keeps happening. So I was just really numb. So what would you say as far as how can we just keep that mind frame to know that, eventually things, I would pray,
Yeah.
will get better. There's going to be, there's another side to the hill that we're climbing right now. So what's your take on how we can move forward? How we can find that peace, how we can make sure we don't let negativity really truly get us down.
Absolutely. Well, I think everything starts with having a roadmap. And what I recommend to people to do is every night create a things to do list with 3 key categories: self-care, social care, and give care. So self-care, social care, and give care. So every night before you go to bed, you're going to write something down in each of those categories that you are going to commit to doing the next day. And this is where kind of all my worlds collide, from beauty to self-advocacy, kind of positive spirit, but also self-esteem and, self-awareness. And then also giving to others what we would like to receive. So under self-care, things like doing a face mask is so nourishing. It feels like a little spa treatment, and it gives you a chance to be present. And, putting something on that maybe gives you a tingling sensation or a cooling sensation, it really puts you in a very present and clear and self-connected state of mind. Painting your nails, you can't help but to concentrate and, try to get it right, unless somebody is like totally ambidextrous. I got to focus, trying to get the left hand done. I'm right-handed. So I'm like, but it forces you in a way to be connected to yourself. Joining on a dance class on YouTube and just feeling your body and moving. And here's the awesome thing, I went to college at Xavier in New Orleans, and I remember when I first started, they were like, girl, you got to learn these dances, girl. I'm like, okay, and after a while, I couldn't get all the dances, I was like, but you know what? One of my friends said, girl, just move. If nothing else, just move your body, and that was so freeing. And sometimes, the good thing is about being in quarantine is that you can dance. Nobody see your moves. It don't matter how offbeat you are, how rough it is, just move your body. And that gives you a sense of connectedness and a release of stress and anxiety. So self-care, what will you do? This is on our things to do list, right? What will you do for self-care the next day? And write that down. Then the social care. So you talked a lot about what we're going through with the injustice and the emotions that we naturally feel watching George Floyd be murdered, calling out for his mother, and connected. That impacted all of us because we can see ourselves in him, our family members, our humanity in him. And I think that when we feel like we're taking action, that gives us some power back, because that's really what we watched him lose, and we felt inevitably that we lost too. We felt powerless. And when we feel powerless, just like a battery dying out of energy, we can't move forward. And so get your power back, regain that power. Call your mayors, write your emails, send your petitions. This is where I think social media can have a positive place. Express yourself. And you know what? If you're not open for anybody's opinion, cut off the comments for the day. You can do that. That's okay. You don't have to debate your space and in your energy and your spirit in this time, but get it out, like writing down a good journal entry or a diary entry, and let the world see you. Get that power back. Maybe jump on a Zoom call with coworkers or friends and say, I'm inviting you to this to hear my story. And, again, I want to share it with you. I want you to ask questions, but I want to regain my power by expressing my experience. So create that space of social care. What will you do for social care to give back and regain that sense of power in yourself and in your sense of belief? And then the third category, right, is that give care. And it is something so special that invokes light in us when we do unto others, when we help others to reignite their flame. So what could that look like? Every week I send 2 handwritten notes out, because I also think time management is important. We're already juggling a lot, so I don't overcommit, but I send 2 handwritten notes to someone in my life. I make it light. I might just share a recipe I tried or something new that's happening. The trees are blooming and killing my allergies, but they're blooming. And, you know, I just check in on them, and the response of someone getting a beautiful handwritten card in the mail. Oh, thank you for thinking of me. I know that uplifts them. Sometimes we text a lot, and every now and then I'll surprise somebody with a FaceTime or a phone call because it's a deeper connection than normal. The other day in Brooklyn, the ice cream man came down the street, and that, I don't know in anybody else's neighborhood, but that's a special moment. Especially it kind of indicates summer, and it brings back that child in you, right? Chasing the ice cream man. So me and my neighbor ran out for the ice cream man. She was laughing. She was like, girl, I don't even got a bra. I don't care. I'm trying to get me a popsicle. And we laughed a bit. You know, we were social distancing in line for the ice cream. But I told the ice cream, I gave the guy, you know, mine was like $5 or whatever. I gave him 10. And I said, you know, I want to pay for her ice cream. And when she, you know, got her ice cream, she was like, you know, looking around for me because I was already walking off. Because, you know, you can do gestures that don't always, you know, aren't always waiting for someone to respond. You can just do kind things. Yes. But she was like, she just yelled out, thank you. You made my day. So, you know, I think, how will you give care? And by doing that, you'll enrich your life in so many ways. So at night, you have your little notebook, your notepad, a Post-it. Write one thing you're going to do for self-care, one thing you're going to do for social care, and one thing you're going to do to give care. And that is your little action plan for the next day. That would be what I would recommend. And I think when you're focused on what you're going to do in those 3 areas and actually doing it, you actually have no room, if you think about it, right, to receive as much negativity or fill your space with some of the heavier emotions, because you're committed to that action plan. So that's personally what I do. And I hope that maybe that helps some others to bring a little bit more light and joy and optimism, and gives you something to look forward to. Imagine writing that down at night and you like, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. I'm gonna do a face mask. I'm gonna paint my nails. I'm gonna, you know, sign some petitions. I'm gonna call my grandma. You know, it gives you something to look forward to.
Right. And I was just about to say that, it gives you something to look forward to. And that's what we need in general. If it's just something to look forward to the next day, I think it's something to just give us a bit of sparkle. So I know one of the things that you mentioned, you labeled yourself as the sequined unicorn. So can you elaborate? And I know I kind of dived in and just started running my mouth, but if we can backtrack a little bit, if you can just give everybody, you know, your background. I know you're the Sequin Unicorn. I know you're a beauty guru and everything, but if you want to fill in everyone on your background and just how you came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I am originally a Chi-Town girl. I was raised in the suburbs of Chicago. My grandparents are both from the South. So I had kind of a merge of very urban city and good Southern hospitality upbringing. And, you know, my father is an entertainer, a singer, and my mom is in kind of PR and corporate strategy and business. So I also had the worlds of discipline and time management and working hard merged with be creative and, you know, let your spirit shine and show your talents. And all of that comes together really in who I am. I had always had the vision of wanting to be an attorney. I used to dress up in like high heels and my mom's clothes, you know, suits. I just thought that was such a great job. Like I would watch lawyers on TV and I love the way they would speak up for people. And I think that's kind of always been a big part of my why, of helping people find their voice. But I just wanted to do that. And that was my focus and career path. And when I actually went to college in New Orleans, far from home, I wanted something so different. I was like, I don't want my mom to be able to pop up. I want to be able to try something new. I remember the first time I went for my college visit, and we were walking around the campus, and someone was like, hey, baby. Hey, baby. I was like, oh, I'm everybody's baby here. I love it. I felt like I was home. And but when I went to Xavier, I studied English with the vision of going to law school. And I also studied vocal music with a focus on operatic vocal performance. So I acquired my dad's singing ability. I wanted to be a lawyer. People always ask me all the time, girl, what were you gonna, I was like, I don't know, maybe I would have been a singing attorney or an entertainment attorney. I didn't have it all figured out, but I knew that, back to very much, those are kind of the two worlds of my parents, right, coming together in me. But Hurricane Katrina really threw things off, as it did for many people. That was my senior year of college. And, we weren't going to graduate on time in May. We weren't going to graduate till August. And so I wasn't going to be on track to be able to apply for law school in time. So I took a little break in thinking, okay, well, what do I want to do? I'll study for the LSAT and, get into the next year, for law school. And a friend said to me just over, we were sitting over coffee one day, and she was like, girl, now with all your personality and all your color, you don't want to be in somebody's law firm wearing brown suits. Like, you should, and she said to me, you should consider the beauty industry. And I had always had like a love for, I used to have my little MAC lip gloss. And, I used to read magazines and be so fascinated by it. But I never really thought of it as like being able to have a serious career, in beauty. So I hadn't really given it much thought. And as I started to do some research and reach out to different beauty companies for roles and opportunities, I began to get really excited, because back to why I wanted to be a lawyer was to be a voice for people, to help people feel heard and valued. And in watching what my friends and colleagues were doing who were in the industry, helping people feel more confident and comfortable in their skin and, shoulders back and stand taller and feel more confident going on that interview or that date, I was like, oh, this really does align with who I am. And so my career started off at Sephora. I worked my way, literally, when you start there, you started, cashier, they start you from the beginning. But I really worked hard, and I got all the trainings and, developed my skills in artistry and skincare expertise. And I went from there to own my own makeup artistry business with a focus on celebrity clients, television, and film. And I had such a great time, from getting people ready for red carpets and photo shoots and weddings and, special events, and hearing their stories. And, I'll say this, there are so many people who we admire and look up to, and sometimes we compare. But I just want to say that, all the celebrities that you admire, they at one point were just that girl or that guy, trying to pursue their dreams. And even in their celebrity, in their space, they still too have struggles with optimism and confidence and knowing right from wrong and self-belief. So be inspired by them, but also know, they're walking a journey similar to you as well. And in many ways, you are an inspiration to them as well. And I learned that by spending a lot of time with, my celebrity clients. And from there, the economy took a turn, and we were all, remember that? We were like, everything felt like it was like, budgets started getting cut. People were like, oh, we don't need a makeup artist no more. I was like, oh, okay. So I looked around and I realized that though I had a business, I didn't have, I hadn't gone to business school. So I really was more so making good money off of a hobby. And that's what inspired me to get into corporate beauty. Because I said, you know what, I need to learn, truly the ins and outs of business and strategy and, company development and structure. And, similarly, and I want to say this to people, it's okay to start again, to grow. I had to start again. And I started in a role that I could have easily said, oh, I'm overqualified, right? I've been here before.
Right.
But you got to sometimes have humility to say, sometimes I restart to catapult me. So
can you repeat that part? Because I try to drive that to people too. Because I know what my journey, when I decided to walk away from the payroll industry, and we have so many similarities. Like I had a talent for makeup, and I wanted to do my empowerment and things of that nature. And I remember I was telling a guy I was dating at the time. We went to dinner and we're going over some ideas. I had just left the job like maybe a few weeks prior, and I mentioned, well, maybe I'll apply at MAC, and he was like, no, you don't want to do that. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like I kind of felt like I felt like reduced when he said it. I'm like, well, if I want to learn makeup and expand, I need to be around it. So I'm like, okay, if I'm working at a Mac counter, I'm working at a Mac counter. Like, so what? Like I'm in the store. So I just wanted to interrupt for a second. Like for anyone that's listening, you heard what she said. Humility is a plus,
Yes.
especially when you're branching out and starting on your own. Like, don't ever think that something is beneath you or you're subservient, like it's part of the growth. So when you said that, it just rung to me. So I didn't mean
No, I'm so glad
to
that
interrupt.
you were impassioned to connect to that, because see what you might have learned at that Mac counter, right, is so many critical elements, from managing a budget to customer service to, if you had even been at one store and moved to another store, you learn maybe more. You might learn new demographics or new cultures and their perspective on beauty. And see, that arms you to then, if you're looking for your next significant role, say, here's what I learned. Not just that I help people find a perfect lipstick, but I also understood, scheduling and time management and actually management skills. And so absolutely have the humility to know that sometimes a career path, and I have never actually shared this sentiment, that's why I never say I worked my way up. What I say is I worked my way to my goals. Because when we say
Yes.
work our way up, there's this illusion that everything goes like a ladder. But to me, it's like a heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. You might have moments where,
Mm-hmm.
it's high and then it softens, high and then it softens. But if you're open to learning every step of the way, you can end up where you want to be. And it is not a ladder. It's not a stair step sometimes. So I just,
And another
yes,
thing
please.
too that we should take away and stop saying, another thing that you mentioned, also having that mindset makes you think that you started
Right.
from the bottom, and there's a negative notation in being at the bottom. So that's another way to just take that out of your mind frame. Like we're not at the bottom, which also goes back into humility. I think sometimes we think we're starting at a bottom and it's a negative thing. So yeah, that's another way too. Like, no, we're working across, like you said, we're working towards that goal. We're rising towards that goal. But for people to not think you're not at the
No,
bottom
you're
at
not
all.
at the
So
bottom.
don't think that either, because it's not a step down to say, hey, I'm going to pursue my
Yes.
dream. Okay. And leave X amount of figures to start at another level, to get to where you want to be. So reaching your goal is always, you're always going to the top. I feel like if someone decides to take that leap of faith and to step out to accomplish your goal, you've already leaped up several
Yes.
levels already, because you've taken control of your dreams. And life is so short, and so many people are sitting on dreams and they don't have the confidence of that tool. They're afraid, to just go out and achieve it. So that's another way to think too. Like, we're not at the bottom,
Yes.
So for anyone listening, because I'm big on pursuing your dreams. So that's another way to look at it. Like, you're not from the bottom
Yes,
at all.
absolutely. And you said a word there, with so many people sitting on their dreams and, maybe bypassing opportunities. Maybe you are a director, but, to get where you want to go or pivot, you might be a manager at your next company, or you might take a manager role in your company. But, if you're a manager, and this is what I tell people sometimes you're a director, right? And you're at a company and there are 30 directors. So you only get so much voice or so much influence. But then you take the manager role and maybe there's only 5 managers. Now your voice is more powerful. Your influence is more powerful. You can make change. You can get more visibility for your work. You can be more creative. So also, what you said, don't sit on those dreams of, well, I want to get here. This is exactly what it looks like. Be more open to say, what is the path? What is it that I'm passionate about? What is it that I want to accomplish? And then what are the steps and possibilities for me to get there, versus sitting on your dreams and sitting and holding yourself back because it's not the title or the money that you maybe were manifesting it should be. Those aren't always the outcomes that lead us to our goals, and definitely not sometimes the outcomes that make us truly happy. So that was a good word you said there. Get up off them dreams, and let's
Yes.
get some action and move forward. So that's kind of what has formed my career path. And when it comes to Sequin Unicorn, I think that is has been a journey of evolution. For a long time, my Instagram just said my name, Myisha Procter. And I didn't really also, I kind of posted things sporadically. I didn't really have a vision. But one day I remember someone saying to me, I just love coming to your page, for inspiration and, positivity. And I thought, well, what if that's going to be the constant, which is my life, and I can be a little bit more conscious and aware of that, then, what is something that brings me a lot of joy and inspiration? And one, it's sparkly things. And, I it's funny because I remember a friend saying to me one day, and this kind of inspired that. She said, every time we go out, I love that when I go in my car the next day or go to clean my car, there's always a little sequin you've left behind that reminds me of you. And, so that kind of sparked that, how do we leave something behind to bring joy in people's lives? What's our legacy? And so that kind of inspired the sequin part of, leaving a little sparkle everywhere we go. And then the unicorn piece is that each of us, uniquely as we are, don't always give ourselves credit for how powerful and remarkable and special we are. We each are unicorns. And what we bring to the table, our perspectives, our journey, our style, our talents make each and every one of us so unique. And too often I find people trying to fit in or conform or be like others, where versus letting their own light shine, which inevitably grants other people permission and a pathway and a bridge to let their light shine. So that kind of is the unicorn piece. So you've got the leaving a little sparkle everywhere you go, with really owning your uniqueness and your persona and your special self. And that's the world that I wanted to create for people. So that's kind of where I am present day. And I'm more conscious and intentional about that in my own life. And then, of course, helping to guide other people to manifest that in their lives as well.
I love that. And the favorite thing I think I picked up from what you said when you mentioned being intentional. So I love that too, to just be intentional about leaving that sparkle and about inspiring other people. I think people don't realize, like, and this is how I kind of started my journey, because my personal Instagram, I would just post random things, like you mentioned, like random memes or just empowering things, just posting it a lot of times just for myself. And then it got to the point where people were inboxing me, oh, girl, I saved that screenshot. Right. I screenshotted what you said. And I'm like, why? I didn't even really say it. Like I just took someone else's empowering word, but then I started saying things on my own. And I'm like, people, they're listening, so how can, and like you said, being intentional. So I'm like, how can I be intentional to really move this on another level, to really empower people or to really help people? Because it's not only just helping me, but it's also helping others. And it really does make a difference when you're intentional about your purpose, and finding your purpose. And once you recognize what your purpose is, especially if you do have a purpose that reaches other people and it touches them, just to have that confidence and say, okay, I'm just going to be bold about my intentions and reach people. So I think that's always a wonderful thing. So, of course, as we know, unicorns are what we all view, or at least I do view, as something unique, something rare. So I know, like you mentioned, being the Sequin Unicorn, which I think is so cute. So the way I interpret being a unicorn is just being different and standing out. And one of my biggest things, I always tell people to go love yourself. I always tie in how self-love, I feel, is the heartbeat to everything, just in our choices, following our dreams, how we view ourselves, what we accept. I feel like self-love is the pulse of everything. So in order to stand out, in order to be that unicorn, in order to leave a little bit of sparkle in everyone's world, how would you tie in the notion of self-love in order to be that awesome sequin unicorn?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to, first, as we said, with career or vision of pursuing your dreams. I think having a little bravery to do what makes you happy, again, will then put your focus into that. And when you're constantly investing in ways in which you're unique and you're special, you're nurturing your heart and your spirit. And that's a big part of the foundation of self-care. So if in your work you're not getting what you need, look around, make changes, start small. You don't, I sometimes think people think they have to go from, oh, well, if I do, like you stepping out for your dreams and doing a podcast, well, what if I don't worry about the followers. Just start pursuing the dream and sharing the voice and let it grow from there. So nurture who you are in yourself. And then, we talked about the I ams and the mantras. I think that's a big part of self-celebration and, putting yourself first in a lot of ways. I also think a lot of people don't adopt with friends, with coworkers, with family, even moms with kids sometimes. My philosophy is always we can't accept withdrawals without deposits. And when we do that too often and far too long, guess what? We end up overdrafted. And so, when it comes to friends, if you notice that you're always the one inviting, right? Always the one, hey, let's do this. Pause for a minute. And if you're not brave enough to have the conversation, you can just pause altogether. You just stop inviting. But if you're brave enough to have the conversation or you feel comfortable, say, hey, I noticed that I'm always doing the inviting. Maybe they just say, well, girl, you creative. I don't know. I don't ever know what to do. Okay, well, now we have an understanding. Or, that person may say, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'll be more conscious of it. So now you'll start to get more deposit, more things that fuel you. You'll feel valued and invited out, and you can get excited about getting dressed and where you're going to go versus always being the one to give that out. Maybe at work, it's always people asking you, hey, can you help with this? Can you help with that? Sometimes it's as simple as saying, hey, if you get it started, or if you create the outline, or if you send me an agenda for the meeting, then I'll be there. Because I want to be prepared. I want to bring my best self to this meeting or to this work or to this project. So I don't just have to get a stack of papers on my desk. I can say, hey, why don't you take a few minutes and take me through what's a priority, what I should focus on, and how much autonomy I have with this so I can do my very best work. Don't accept that withdrawal from you and your energy without a deposit. And same thing with family and husbands and boyfriends and even children. Yes, you're still a nurturer of your babies and your children, but you can still have moments. I remember my mom when we were old enough, right? And I'm not talking about leaving an infant, but when kids are a little bit older, my mom would go in her bathroom and she would close the door and we could play outside her door, but we couldn't bother. And she would have her me time. And to this day, I still don't know what she was doing. Maybe candles, a bubble bath. I know for a while she was getting her master's for a while, probably studying. But she was not going to allow that withdrawal from us without a deposit of time for herself. And that made her a better mother, a stronger mother. And in that time, we would be sitting right at the door. Mom, what you doing? What I say, 30, give me my hour, my 30 minutes. And when she came out, we would have great time together. And, whatever the next thing we would do, cooking, probably being forced to clean something. And we like, go back in the bathroom now. We're coming out cleaning. But we would do something together. So, I say just take a moment of reflection and ask yourself, has that been my issue? Have people come over and over to my ATM of my spirit and my care and withdraw. And now I'm feeling overdrafted and I'm not feeling fulfilled. And what are the ways in which I can restock, refill that bank account and start to put some boundaries, healthy boundaries up that allow me to protect myself, my energy, so I can actually be better for everyone else. So that's kind of my viewpoint as it comes to establishing, creating, and protecting self-care.
I love that. And I love the analogy using the ATM because that is perfect. And you're right. Sometimes we have so many people that they withdraw and they deplete our energy and they haven't deposited. They haven't put anything in to balance it out. And you're right, that could be in so many things. It can be in a friendship, it can be in a relationship, it can be in our families, our workplace. There's so many situations where I feel, once again, tying into self-love, where I think a lot of us, especially as women, Black women in particular, I think sometimes we're put into the mind frame that we're thinking that we have to give, 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 give. And sometimes it may be because of what we may have seen growing up, where we're thinking that it's normal that we have to give and we have to put in extra, and it's just part of our being. Well, it's actually not. We don't have to be martyrs to our purpose. We don't have to be martyrs to anything. So I think that also ties into self-love. And I do always try to drive that into people, that making decisions for yourself, for your well-being, for your happiness, it's not being selfish. And I think sometimes we get afraid that, oh, if I make this decision, how's it going to affect blah blah blah, what are people going to think of me? It may look selfish, and it's not selfish. If it's going to be something, if you're going to make any choice that's going to help you and it's going to make you a better person, it's going to make you bigger, bolder, badder, fiercer,
yes,
always go for it. And sometimes, like you said, we do have to pause. Sometimes we have to pump the brakes on situations. We have to pump the brakes on things that could potentially be toxic as well. If anyone that watches the show
yes, me
Insecure, I'm obsessed with
too.
that show. Obviously, the big storyline now. Yeah, so as we know, the big
Yeah.
storyline is with Issa and Molly. And I love how they're being honest and raw. Sometimes people are just for your season. Even if those two end up, I don't know how they're going to write this, but even if they end up working out their differences, sometimes you have to pump the brakes. You have to take a pause, to do that self-reflection, and in order to know what you need. And that's the main thing. And that's one of the main things, the main proponents I feel when I tell people, go love yourself. Loving yourself is also having that self-reflection. When you have that self-reflection, you can also figure out, what is it that I need? This friendship in the past that I thought was what I needed. Once I've done some self-reflection, I may realize, this doesn't speak to my language. This relation, correct. It does not serve me. This relationship that I may have, spent some time with. Once you do that self-reflection, okay, maybe this doesn't speak to my love language. And once again, as you said, it does not serve me. Or maybe you reflect on a situation even with your family. And I'm going to talk about that further. I have some unique things going on in my family. Sometimes if you look into something with your family, you may realize, well, maybe I'm giving and being put upon when I don't necessarily have to be put in this position. And maybe I need to do some self-reflection and create some boundaries, just for my well-being. So it all ties into self-love, and I'm really big on that. So before we wrap up, so something different that I want to start doing, because obviously this is about the queens. The Q chat is about conversation amongst queens. So with my guests, my beautiful queens that I have on this show, I want to give every single person a platform. And Queen Myisha, you're the first person to actually be a part of this new thing that I'm adding on the show. So, so be honored. So something I want to start wrapping up my show with is to ask every person that is on the show, every queen, I would like you to just define, what is your definition of a queen?
What a powerful question. And I think I'm going to be taking that forward, by the way. That's going to go on my list of give care. Remember the checklist? I'm going to be asking some people to define their queendom.
Yes.
I really think that for me, how I define a queen is being open to learn, to try, to attempt to cultivate change and energy, while also not being afraid to fail. And that to me is truly how I would define being a queen. If you think about even a crown of jewels, each of those are created under pressure, under, intense darkness sometimes, have to be dug up and found and curated and polished and carved and then set into that crown. And so a lot of what we go through in life of taking risks, trying something new, is that darkness, is that cultivation, is that carving, is that learning. But in the end, we get something really beautiful and precious from it. So for me, I would say, and I'm going to really actually take this to heart because your question has touched me to think more about that, of how I wear my crown, to say, I am going to pursue more. I'm going to try more. I'm going to speak up more. I'm going to stretch myself more, because I have less fear of failure, and knowing that every step that I'm taking, I'm just polishing and cultivating and harvesting something really precious. So that's how I would define it. And that's actually how I'm going to view myself and my steps going forward. How do I step more into my queendom?
Perfect. And that's what I want everyone to take away when they listen to this show, when they go back and listen to this episode with the wonderful Queen Myisha. I want everyone to think this every single day. As she even listed the 3 things to think about before you lay down your head at night. You know, and it's so important is what we put into our minds before we go to sleep. I'm really big on that, because you want to have some positive energy in your spirit, number one, before you go to sleep, number one. So I want people to think more, everyone that's listening, what defines your queendom? How are you contributing to the queen community? What are you pouring into yourself to truly embody a queen and to wear that queen's crown with some
Yes.
arrogance? I always say queen's arrogance, but not arrogance in a negative way, but just that confidence, that knowing when you step out, people revere you and they know that you're one to be reckoned with. Like, you truly have that queendom. You've embraced and manifested everything that's been thrown at you. So I just want people that listen to the Q chat, that follow me on Instagram, and that listens to all these beautiful gems that I've had featured on the show, just think more on what defines your queendom, what makes you a queen. So that way you can definitely figure out the pieces to truly go love yourself and to wear that crown and to know, I want you to go queen and know that you truly are the special privilege. You're the prize, you're the package, but I want everyone to think what makes you a queen. So I want to thank you so much, Queen Myisha, for being on the show. Before we end everything, I want you to throw out every way that people can find you, give everyone your social media handles, just give
Yeah,
everyone how they can
absolutely.
find you
Well,
and
thank
search
you
for
for
you.
the gift of this time with you and with everyone who is listening in now and in the future. Yes, on Instagram, I am the Sequin Unicorn. Come along for the ride. We'll have a great time together. It is a world full of inspiration, truth, and color. And I'd love for you all to be part of that family. I also am, if anyone is a Facebook enthusiast, which I know for the young kids, they like, girl, ain't nobody on Facebook, but I am on there. And I do a lot of educating and information through that platform, and many things to come in the future. As like I said, I become more fearless and step more into my voice. I'll be developing a website in future, ways to connect with me, and all that'll be updated on my platform on Instagram, the Sequin Unicorn. So come along, stay tuned, and I hope that we'll be part of this incredible journey of stepping more powerfully forward, as you said, as queens together on this incredible ride. So hope to see you all, meet you all soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, Miss Queen Myisha, and everyone that listens. Please make sure you go follow the Sequin Unicorn. Like I said, when you guys go to her IG page, I dare you to not look at her page and just feel happiness. You're going to pick up on that sparkle that she just mentioned. She has a beautiful smile and just a beautiful energy, and I know you'll pick up on it just by simply going to the page. Like, you will definitely pick up on that beautiful sparkle that she does have. So once again, for everyone that is listening, as you know what I'm going to end it with, I always say this and I will say it over and over again. Please make sure that you go love yourself. You have to have that self-love. Once you truly have that self-love and that self-care, you'll know anything that's not going to serve you. I feel like it'll just repel away from you. It'll just bounce off. So just make sure that you love yourself, understand that you really are special, and also whatever dream that you have in your heart, if you haven't begun the steps to pursue it, What's stopping you? Start today. I guarantee you the spirit that is inside of you will lead you to the right direction in order to make those dreams come true.
Thank
So thank
you.
you
You're
again,
such a
Queen
gift. You're such a
Myisha. I'm
light.
so
Thank
grateful for
you.
you being a part of the show.